Well, I think I'm close.
I've been in 49 states. I've never been in North Dakota. And then I took a step and said, now I've been in all 50. And it felt kind of, I don't know, it felt good. But the adventure was still ahead.
On to Bowman.
In my company, I spent a lot of time traveling around the country, and I could remember what states I'd been to and which I hadn't. And it really originally wasn't a goal. It was just that I happened to visit a lot of states. And then at some point, I kind of tallied it up and saw, well, where have I been and where haven't I been? And am I really just going to go there and step across into the state and have my picture taken in front of the Welcome to North Dakota sign and come home? Or I just thought, this is the 50th. I ought to do something different. So slowly, I kind of settled on a plan. I looked on a map, picked the southwest corner, which was closest to Utah. That was the only reason there. And I saw a little town there on the map, and it was called Bowman. And I thought, okay, that's where I'm going. So I thought, well, I need to know something about Bowman. The thought came to me, I ought to get their newspaper. And, I could learn, that's probably a good source of information. So I subscribed to the Bowman County Pioneer. The Bowman County Pioneer is a local paper. It serves a population, I don't know, I think Bowman's about 1,500. There's Rame, which, I don't know, a few hundred, Scranton, and those are the three sizable communities. And so it's a small town newspaper. And I had the date set. And I had a week I was going to go up. Actually, it was only a couple of days. I was going to go up. I was going to drive around and eat and look and talk to people, and that was it. Well, then, like, just before I'm going here, on the front page of the Pioneer is this guy from New Jersey who's been to all 49 states, and he goes to Bowman. That was his 50th state, and I was just, I felt kind of cheated. I felt kind of like, that was my state, that was my town. He should have found his own town. I just dropped it. I didn't do anything with it for a while, but I kept getting the Bowman County Pioneer, and I kept reading it cover to cover. So I was kind of, following them. I think my motivations changed. I think it went from a goal to go to all 50 states, although that was still there. I think that it switched from even the goal to go to all 50 states. It wasn't even about North Dakota anymore. It really became Bowman. I still didn't know a soul there. I didn't know a single person. I didn't even know anybody that had ever been there. And I didn't even know anybody that had heard of it. Well, as it got close, I really started getting worried. I think there was a lot of mixed emotions. I thought, I'd never done anything like this before. I really didn't know what to expect.
I've known all about this town for 3 years. There's the high school. I knew it was right there.
Well, I arrived in town, and it was fairly late, and so I didn't do much that first day.
Bowman County Bulldogs right over there. This all feels so familiar. It's just like I know just where everything kind of is.
I found the latest copy of the Pioneer, which I hadn't received at home, so I took that back to the hotel room and read that, and just didn't really do anything that day.
Well, it was. It's about 7:30, and I'm in my palatial room at the Super 8, and I drove around. I just went to go get some dinner, and everything's closed. everything closes at 6, so I'll have to keep that in mind. I'm really excited now to kind of go in one level deeper and see if I can hopefully meet some people.
Before I went, I made a list of people that I wanted to meet, and so when I first got there, I called a few of them and asked, and there was a lady that was it seems like her name was everywhere, and her name was Fuzzy Hedman. And then the more I read, she's always there, and I'm always reading about Fuzzy Hedman. And so I'd have to say that was top of my list, was Fuzzy Hedman. I had to meet Fuzzy Hedman. And so I just started around town. And these ladies work at the Bowman County Pioneer and what's the other one?
Finder.
The Finder. Okay, and what do you guys do?
Graphics.
Cliff told me you didn't do anything.
Oh!
No, he didn't know that. So when I was at the paper, I went to the Pioneer, I says, who writes the Scranton News? They said, we don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? And she said, we're not sure. I think it's a lady named Charlotte. And then they thought, and they looked around, they said, Charlotte Cars, that's her name. I went back to my motel and I looked up Cars and called, and Charlotte answered. And I said, I go through this whole thing again of, okay, don't hang up on me. I'm not crazy. Well, I am a little bit, but, and I said, I'm in town, and I've been reading your paper for 3 years now. I've read every one of them, and so I know, and I'd just like to meet you. And she says, well, that's weird. I said, well, tell me, you often write about this lady named Fuzzy Hedman. I really need to get hold of her as well. She said, well, that's my mother. I said, oh, well, okay, that explains why you know what she's doing all the time, I suppose. And I said, well, what about, I'd really like to meet her too. I said, okay, I'll call you Thursday. And I'm gonna go, hopefully go play some golf and then meet with the chief. It's just 9 holes, but it'll be fun. First hole, on in regulation, par 5. So Bowman is treating me good. I 3-putted. I'd seen in the paper a year before that Chuck Headley had been appointed the chief of police, and I'd called him and made an appointment, and so he and I went to lunch, and that was a lot of fun.
Real pleasure to meet you. I'm glad you stopped in and meet the man himself. I've heard of you before I even met you, so it's been a real pleasure to meet you.
Chief Headley had said, well, you need to go meet the mayor, and I didn't know who the mayor was, and I found out it was Lynn James. It's video.
Okay,
so
I'm Lynn James. I'm the president of the Bowman City Commission, and this is my daughter Casey Burke and my granddaughter Claire Burke. Can you say hi?
Okay, president of the City Commission, aka
The mayor.
the mayor.
Yes. Yes.
Lynn James ran a little coffee shop there, kind of, and it was a gathering place and kind of a library and cappuccino kind of thing. And
that. Okay, my name is Len Brackle.
And she introduced me to some the other people that were there, and they were going around introducing him. And she says, "And this is so and so." And she said, "And this is Lynn Brackle, and this is." I said, "Wait a minute, I've heard that name before, Lynn Brackle." I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm a county commissioner." I said, "Yeah, you just ran in the election, didn't you?" I read about that. What do you think about a celebrity like me coming to
Oh, we
to
think
Bowman?
it's great. We like that out-of-town money here.
I said, "Lynn, I don't. One of the person I wanted to meet is the sheriff," and he said, "I'll take you over there. I'll take you over to the courthouse." And this is Lynn, just a nice guy, and he takes me over to the courthouse. The sheriff's not there, and I never did get to meet Rory Teagan. I think the sheriff and I met several of his people, but I was really sorry that I didn't get to, because he was out of town. Didn't get to meet him, and that was a disappointment. But he not only introduced me to the people in the sheriff's department, he introduced me to everybody in the courthouse. After we spent half the day, going through it, he says, "Oh, I've got to go to Rotary lunch." And he said, "Hey, do you want to go?" I said, Sure, of course I do.
Our Father's gone to the author of liberty.
And so then I went downstairs. I got introduced to everyone at the Rotary, which that was a lot of fun. That was really interesting. I felt like that was really you saw some real grassroots hometown activities there, and that was fun. And that was interesting. And
A peace that was meant to be.
And so then, the one last thing I asked Lynn, I was abusing him because he'd taken me everywhere and shown me so much and it was so good to me. I said, you know, there's two other people that I haven't met that I really want to meet. And one of them I can't find in the phone book. I can't find anywhere. I said, his name is Doug Buchholz. He says, oh yeah, I know Doug. And I says, where do I find him? He says, I don't know. Let's go over to his house. I said, okay.
I'm standing in front of Doug Buchholz home, and he is the weather guy. He's one of the guys I really wanted to meet. Unfortunately, he's not home. So
Doug Buchholz, my interest in him was every week in the Pioneer, there's a little thing there that's the weather. It's not what the weather's going to be, it's what the weather was. It's the high and the low and any precipitation. And it's got his picture. Well, in the picture he's got a hat on, and he's got a full beard, and he's got sunglasses. So I don't know, just every week I'd look at that picture and I'd think, I wonder what he looks like. I wonder, who is he? What does he do? Is he a weatherman? Is he what is he?
they told me at the bank that that maybe Doug Buchholz still worked at the way station, and that's where I just was in way station and talking to those two guys. But alas, he still proves to be elusive. But they gave me one more place I can look, which is out at the windmill place.
And I said, I'd driven around when I first got there. I saw a place with a bunch of windmills. He says, yeah, that's it. That's his dad runs that. I said, okay, I got to go out there. And so I drove out there. And his dad doesn't want to be, because he said, no, I don't want to be interviewed. Don't take a picture of me. I said, okay. And so, so then I turn it on and I'm holding it down here and I'm recording him. And that was kind of a dirty thing to do, but it was priceless. The things he told me and the things he said. So I learned all about windmills, and from a guy who's a artist at taking care of windmills and rebuilding windmills. And he had a great shop there, lots of cool stuff, but he didn't know where Doug was either. Introduce yourself and
Okay.
and tell me what you do. And
Doug Buchholz, and I record the weather. I do it for the National Weather Service.
So finally, I went back to his house, and he was home. What a fascinating guy he was. What an interesting guy. Met him and his son, and I went and he showed me that he works for the National Weather Service and he collects data every day. And every day at 7 o'clock in the morning he checks things and he emails in the results, and they go to the paper and then they go to the National Weather Service as well. So really I stayed there probably an hour just talking to him about weather.
So you didn't know that you were a celebrity just from the newspaper? No.
So I called Thursday morning, talked to Charlotte's husband, and they're not back. Thinking, oh, so I called later in the afternoon, they're still not back. I'm thinking, I'm going home in the morning, and I really was getting bummed out. I was really getting worried about this. And so finally, I called that evening, or later in the afternoon, and they were back. And I said, you know, you've been traveling, but is there any way you could meet me tonight for dinner, maybe somewhere or something? And they said, sure.
Well, I'm on my way to Scranton. I just called Charlotte Cars, who is Fuzzy Hedman's daughter, and they finally got back. They just got back, and they've agreed to have dinner with me at a pizza place in Scranton.
Well, I'm Frances Fuzzy Hedman, and we're in Scranton, North Dakota, in a good town, a good state.
Well,
daughter, Charlotte Hedman Cars.
And that's your claim to fame, is you're her daughter.
Yeah, well, yeah, that I'll admit to.
And you write the Scranton News.
Yeah, if you want to call it writing the news, yeah.
No, I gotta tell you, I love that.
The bits and pieces and comments.
I love that. I read every one.
You know, I finally had to say, you know, I know this sounds weird, but you gotta understand what an honor it is for me to meet you. What an honor it is to meet such a person with that lives their life so full, that has so much fun, that enjoys everything. And it's clear in talking with her, which I'd already kind of gathered that about her, but she did. She loved doing stuff. She loved going places, doing things, and you could just tell she was always involved in everything.
I guess I've really done everything that I wanted to do here, and you know, Fuzzy Hedman, what a neat lady. That was way fun, and I just feel like this whole idea was crazy. Most people, when I tell them about it, they didn't understand. It sounded silly, and quite honestly, it sounded silly to me. But I can't tell you how fun it's been, and what an adventure it's been. Far more than I thought it would be.
It was just a really nice community. Maybe they knew I was coming. I don't know. Maybe they cleaned up for me, but it was a really nice community. And then as I got to know more and more people, I found out that was not only true, nice community, but it was because there were nice people that lived there. There were good people.
Thank you very much for visiting Bowman. We appreciate having you.
Accomplishing that goal of 50 states, you know, it's interesting that when I talk about my trip to Bowman, that's the lead up to it. But then I generally don't talk about that anymore, because that was not the excitement. That was not the funnest part of the trip. What a great, you know, honor and privilege that was, really, to be able to go and do something like that. And I realized, and I think maybe the thing that really changed within me is that it's all out there. But if you sit at home and do nothing, you'll never experience anything. You've got to push yourself a little bit. And life needs to include adventures. You know, when you have a dream of any kind, you ought to really pursue that. And especially the crazy ones. Especially the ones that don't really make any sense. Those are the things that you really ought to pursue. That's what I felt like I did. And wow, what really a life-changing experience I had that week in Bowman.